I'm most definitely an independent, and I don't want to be ascribed to either party. But we have these groups that get control of countries. I've been to over 140 countries, and I can tell you right now, the way you can tell a fascist nation is by the number of pictures and posters and placards there are of the supreme leader everywhere. And that's a creepy, eerie feeling. And every country I've gone to that claims to be social democracy devolves very rapidly into an authoritarian, despotic dictatorship that actually is called communist, but it's fascist. See, because all of these things don't just happen on the form of a continuum. It's not a linear line, it's circular. So if you take one step to the right, if you're Republican, you don't end up just as fascist. You actually turn around and start emulating certain aspects of communism. Because it's a circle, it's spheroidal, it's not a linear line. Everything in life is this way. This is why when we walk around the earth, or we take a plane around the earth and fly west, and for all the flat earthers out there, right, people ask me all the time, how do you know the earth if all the pictures are CGI? Well, I've flown on an airplane and done around the world trips many times, and I fly straight west, and then I end up east. Now, I'm not going to argue that we live in a simulation, because I believe we do, and it's holographic. But that simulation of Earth is a spinning ball. And I can tell you, it could be, you'll get me to agree to this, I might actually be just in a vat of Jell-O somewhere with a headset on, living some sort of virtual reality experience. But the context of that still has the same aspects of gravity. Gravity exists. If I jump off this thing, I'm going to basically hit the ground. Right? That's life. This is the norm. So when you fly west, you end up east. You fly north, you end up south. You go super far right, you end up communist. You go super far left, you end up fascist. Anything in the extreme will do this. This is the nature of life. It's philosophy. It's perspective. So the world tends to go through these periods where we sort of flip our polarities without even realizing that we flipped our polarities, right? You can become so focused on being intolerant that you become intolerant of intolerance itself. And that's what's happening in the world today. We have people who are so focused on being intolerant of the world that they become a big issue. We're seeing it in Canada. We're seeing it all around the world. I think the challenges we're seeing with government right now and corruption is not just in the United States. It's not just in Israel. It's not just in, and let's not forget that Bibi Netanyahu was about to basically be run out of government just a few months ago. He came very close. There were a lot of demonstrations against him. And this related to a lot of topics that he was trying to get a very, very strong fascist kind of control over the judiciary branch of government. So they did not want that to happen. So there were many demonstrations against it. He ultimately did not succeed. He's going to probably take a run at it again. But if anything that's now happened, when we look at this whole Hamas thing, who's benefited by this? Well, Netanyahu now has a united nation when his people were far from united together only a few months ago. It makes it much easier when you can unite an enemy against you to basically make it clear who the hero is. And society has gotten lost because the hero has defined himself or herself as whatever benefits you. That's what benefits us. And when you finally come to this realization, then you start to come to a higher knowledge that, wait a minute, this is my message for today. I think that, it's important to take a step back. Can we choose love in this world of duality? And if we can, what's that going to mean for how we're going to act? What's that going to mean for how we're going to survive and or thrive in this world? Are we going to get to a place where we can thrive as a humanity, where we can overcome all of these different scarcity-oriented aspects of living in this world today? Is there a way to do it where we're combining both the brain and the heart? I believe there is. I definitely believe there is, and I believe that is the Philosopher's Stone, and that's why I'm here. I'm here because I'm on this global journey, chasing this down, finding it within my own self to come to terms with what it means to have truly balanced energy of masculine and feminine. And as I sit here in front of this incredible structure, I cannot help but think about how to embody this balance and how that embodiment can actually be translated to a new world aspect. And I don't mean new world order. I'm not talking about the the WEF. I'm talking about living it within ourselves, where we don't need overlords anymore. We can actually live together as human beings without having to figure out, how you can find advantage one versus another, because you already realize that we have more than enough. This earth is a giant place. Lots of people think that we're running out of land. That's the greatest lie of all time. You know what? The best way to make a business model is to take something that is cheap and sell it for a high price. Buy low, sell high. That's business 101 right there. You don't need to go to Harvard Business School to figure that one out. But one thing at Harvard Business School that they do teach is, they surveyed all these students and they asked them, upon graduation, would you rather graduate with a salary that is, and all dollars being constant, that is $150,000 a year, but you're coming in $10,000 higher than all your classmates with a higher salary? So you have higher comparative economics. Or, all dollars constant again, would you rather have a $200,000 a year salary, but everyone else in your class has on average $210,000? Now, these are supposed to be some of the smartest students in business in the world, right? You'd think. Do you know that 87% chose to go with the lower salary, right? They wanted to take the lower salary where everyone else got more money than them, right? So instead of taking the $200,000, which would be less money, instead of taking the $200,000 salary, which would have meant that they would have had less money than their classmates, they chose the $150,000 salary that had $10,000 a year more than their classmates. That makes no sense. These are supposed to be smart students, but they made a really dumb decision. Because what you realize is that economics is not about absolute, right, economics. It's about relativistic economics. What I have doesn't really mean anything to me unless I have the context of what other people have. Isn't it time we also move beyond that paradigm as well? Isn't it time that we stop thinking about scarcity in these terms? I went once to this island in Fiji, and I met the guy who bought out Fiji water, which Fiji water is a very interesting, water. I do love the taste of the water. It's phenomenal. But the guy that bought the rights to all of it and owns Fiji water is probably one of the most reprehensible people I've ever met in my whole life, to be honest. He's very exploitative. The people on the island that he lives on have to call him king in their language. It's really unbelievable. And I happened to be there as a guest for another friend of mine who happened to have a house on that same island. And I started thinking about the concept of selling water. Water is the most abundant resource on planet Earth. If you were to look at Earth from outer space, you would say it's the blue dot because we're covered in water. Well, think about this for a second. If the Earth is the most abundant resource, has this most abundant resource being water, then why in the heck do we have to pay several dollars? And I just bought a bottle of water. It was like $13 for one bottle of water. And by the way, it's not like the water is lost off of planet Earth. Let's get this straight. It's a closed loop system. So every time we drink water, it doesn't go away. It just gets transitioned from one state into another that eventually comes back into water. Now you could argue, well, but what about access to clean water? I've been on an aircraft carrier that produces 50 million gallons of fresh water every day by basically doing a desalinization of it, by having the water run over the engine, which is a very, very hot nuclear core, like the nuclear submarines as well. Turns it into steam, which then produces fresh water every day. So, wait a minute. We're the blue dot. The oceans that are underneath the Earth's mantle are estimated to be at least 4, maybe 5 times larger than all the water on the surface of Earth. which all of it can be desalinized, and yet we sell it for $13 for a bottle. Think about this for a second. All that somebody's done is taken the most abundant resource, packaged it in a plastic bottle, and because they put it in a plastic bottle, that basically means it's super valuable, and all you have to do is lie to everybody and tell them that water is scarce. And now you're rich. Wake up, people. The scarcity is false. It's fake. And we've all been bamboozled to believe in this. And it's not just in this context, it's also in the context of time. Time is a unit of scarcity. We pay people how much time it takes for them to do something. But even that, all of it is false. We have units of scarcity. Is there a way for us to start looking at the world differently, more in absolute terms, and realizing that what we have is already more than enough? I drive across the United States. There is so much empty land. Not just in the United States, but everywhere I go. This whole thing where it's like, oh, we're running out of space, it's complete bullshit. Stop believing this stuff. It's not true. It's just a construct. It's all part of a construct that is only partially correct. And when we start thinking in those terms, then you can actually start living a life of true abundance. And that life of abundance means everything shifts for you. And it's not just for you that it shifts, but it shifts for all the people in the world around you. It's time for us to transcend out of this duality plane. It's time for those that are feeling this as well to find it within themselves to start living in new ways. It's not driving scarcity. It's driving abundance and recognizing that scarcity exists as well, like the darkness that makes the light even brighter for us. You know, the night is darkest just before the dawn. And I feel that's where the earth is right now. A lot of people worried about wars and more rumors of wars, and you know, there's a lot of stuff in the world right now that just seems like it's definitely coming to a head. But I can tell you, I feel it in my bones that we are coming to a resolution, and that resolution is a positive one. It represents us finally stepping into human being and out of human doing. Love to all of you guys. Have a wonderful day.